Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Monica So, and I'm a chemist who's working on building more efficient solar cells by copycatting plants. So basically, a solar cell is an electrical device that converts light to usable electricity. There are two very well-known types of solar cells, one being silicon solar cells as well as plastic solar cells. And today, I'll be talking about the latter. So you might be wondering, why do we even consider plastic solar cells in the first place? Well, it's because we need energy and the sun has it. So essentially, the world energy usage on an annual basis is equivalent to about 400 billion light bulbs worth of energy. The sun provides 3 million billion light bulbs worth of energy. So naturally, we should exploit this sunlight to meet our energy demands on an annual basis. So just by a show of hands, who here has a device that is powered by solar cells? All right, so a few people. So you might be wondering, why don't we have more of these devices such as solar charged cell phones more widespread? Well, the answer is because of low efficiency. The conversion process from light to electrical conversion is very inefficient. So how do we tackle these problems? Well, we need to understand some challenges that are hindering solar cell performance. One of these problems is related to narrow light absorption. So you might remember from high school physics that the visible light range spans from a maximum of 700 nanometers to 400 nanometers. Common conventional plastic solar cells only absorb light in a very narrow range. So they only absorb narrow slices of that visible light. So one might be absorbing red light, another might be absorbing green light, and the last might be only absorbing blue light. So you might imagine that because they absorb such narrow slices of light, you can't convert the amount of light into usable electricity. The second problem relates to how these solar cell devices work. So upon light absorption in the donor layer of the material, an electron-hole pair is generated. And upon diffusing to a donor-acceptor interface, these charges are separated and then produce current upon being collected at the electrodes. But common plastic solar cells are hindered by inefficient charge transport. This is mostly because the donor-acceptor networks are not well separated. In fact, they're intimately mixed. And this is a problem because you can't very efficiently collect these charges. So how do we tackle these two main challenges then if these are such problems that are hindering solar cell efficiency? Well, let's turn to nature. You might remember from high school biology that plants can very efficiently convert light to usable energy. In fact, they can do this with an astounding 95% efficiency. That's incredible. And how they actually do this is using these highly ordered light-absorbing structures called chloroplasts. So our lab then begged the question, what if we can mimic these structures? What if we can create these artificial light-absorbing structures called metal organic frameworks, or MOFs for short? That is exactly what I'm working on. More specifically, I'm using MOFs to capture light. And then using a processing technique, I form well-ordered structures to convert light to usable electricity. So one common problem is broadening the light absorption, and MOFs can actually do that. So you can imagine that since MOFs have different building blocks, each building block can absorb a different slice of light of the visible spectrum. So for example, building block 1 can absorb the blue and the green light, and then the building block 2 can absorb the blue and red and orange light. So taken together, this structure can absorb all the light. So now that we've captured all the light with a MOF, how do we convert it to electricity? Well, like I said before, the current state of plastic solar cells involves very disordered donor-acceptor networks. So we need a process that can overcome this problem. And one processing technique is called the layer-by-layer growth, which forms ordered layers of donor-acceptor material. And what that essentially is involves a step-by-step introduction of building blocks that eventually forms a film with distinctly ordered donor and acceptor networks. And this helps with the problem of enhancing the efficiency of charge collection, and this is exactly what we want. So, to summarize, we want to improve solar cell efficiency. What I've done is use MOFs to capture sunlight and convert this light into usable electricity using a technique called layer-by-layer growth to form a device that will essentially form electricity, so that one day, maybe everyone in the room can raise their hands and say, I have a solar cell-powered charged cell phone. Thank you very much. And with that said, I'd like to thank the Hub Group, RSG, as well as NDSEG for the support.